Hi guys, it's Coach Pat from the Rant. Before we get to the Rant, let's talk a little bit about our sponsor, Premier Football Consulting. These guys do a great job of placing football players throughout the country at great programs from Division I to Division III. No one does it any better. But instead of me telling you about it, how about you hear from the CEO, Nico Pappas? Nico, tell us all about it.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Rant. My name is Nico Pappas. I'm Coach Pappas' son. I'm also the director and one of the founders here at Premier Football Consulting. Our team at PFC has been around for 23 years and is one of the largest football consulting groups in the country, as we've helped over 1,000 players and their family navigate this competitive, confusing, and costly recruiting process in an effort to find a great college fit. Our team consists of 15 former players and coaches that have experience at the FBS level, the FCS and Ivy League level, as well as the small college high academic landscape. Since the advent of the transfer portal, the NIL, and in the post days of COVID, this college recruiting process has become crazier than ever. It's confusing, it's competitive, and most importantly, it's costly. The PFC has stayed on top of all of these trends and has the ability to leverage our experience, our knowledge, and most importantly, our connections at the college level to give our players a huge edge in what will be a very competitive process. So if your son desires to play college football, I highly recommend that you get the help of an expert. When you go to buy a house, you look to hire a real estate agent. It's the same thing with the college recruiting process. When you are about to enter it, you should seek the help of an expert, and that's where the PFC comes in. So if you would be interested in a quick free consultation call, feel free to reach out to me at 617-308-7801 or shoot me an email at nico@premierfootballconsulting.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico, and thank you, Coach Pap. Now, on to the podcast. Cue the music, baby.
Hey, welcome to the Rant, everybody. We are back. We are fired up. We are going to be talking a little Army-Navy, and we're going to have one of the Army-Navy top recruits from Massachusetts, Merrick Barlow, with us. And then we're going to go right to secret agent ATF, a big high brass guy. I don't even know what he was. He was assistant director, Carlos Canino from Watertown. It's going to be unbelievable. I'm Coach Pap, co-host. With us from a different location, looking a little bit chilly over there, is the great Danny V.
Well, I'm in disguise right now for a minute.
I love it. I love it. And then, of course, the producer back in Wayland where he belongs. Are you in an igloo over there? Look at you. Got that.
It looks like Jesus Christ.
Jesus,
I know, man.
Man. Oh, man.
It's cold in the house, man. It's cold.
Dad's making $200K at Wayland. Tell him to put the heat on.
Yeah, exactly. Put the heat on, Scotty. Put the heat on. Jesus. Man, oh, man. All right, guys, let's get right to it. We're going to have a lot of fun. Danny, one of the top games of the year, Army-Navy. Did you enjoy it?
I thought it was one of the better Army-Navy games I've seen. My opinion, Army might have taken them a little taken them for granted. I think Navy went out and took it to them right from the start. I mean, I loved their offensive game plan was fantastic.
It was the best records of two teams, I think, going way back 50, 60, 70 years. So it was obviously two of the better teams. I'm with you, Danny. It sounds crazy, but it looked like that Army was a little cocky going into the game.
That's what it seemed like.
Yeah, boy, the way Navy mixed it up to start, I mean, was just unbelievable. For me watching the game, of course they're both running triple and all that stuff, but they were throwing the ball more. Both teams looked much more athletic. I was a big Kenny Niamatulo fan, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, the guy. But I'll tell you what, the change, Navy really took it to him, I thought, at the beginning and hung on.
What'd you think of the fake punt?
It was
a speedster.
Oh, it was. Oh, God. That goes in the ballsy call Hall of Fame right there.
Lineman's dream there.
Lineman's dream. And then the kid fumbles.
At least he didn't lose possession. So
at least he didn't lose possession. Thank God. It was really, really fun. And it's a great way. And I love how you know what? The networks in college football and everyone respects the Army-Navy game and allows it to be the only game on. That being said, I'll tell you what, some of these FCS playoff games, these teams out in the Dakotas and Montana State, wow, those were fun games to watch as well. It was a great weekend for college football. In this weekend, we're going to talk a little bit later about college football coming up this week. But we got one of the best players in Massachusetts. He's in the waiting room, right, Dane?
Yep.
All right, let's bring on top recruit for Navy and fantastic player this year for St. John's Prep. Let's bring on Merrick Barlow. Merrick, welcome, buddy.
Merrick,
how's it
how are
going,
you?
guys? Can you guys hear me all right? All good? Can you hear me?
I
We
hear
are
you
doing
good.
great.
You hear us?
Yep.
Where did you watch the game Saturday?
I watched it at home. I had a couple buddies over, and they were all giving me crap saying Army's the better team this year, but I really got to stick it to them after that game.
I mean, when you watch the game, I mean, I got the impression Army might have taken them lightly. And I loved what Navy did. I mean, Navy, that first drive, I thought they set the tone. And, they seemed to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of Army the whole game. What did you think?
I definitely think they had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, especially after seeing Army beat Tulane like they did the week before, especially with Navy losing to Tulane by so much. So I think that game kind of set the tone for Army to say, oh, we're the better team. We put this many points up on Tulane and stuff. So it was great to see that. And Army beat Rice, which Navy fell to midway through the season. So it was great to see that they played with a little bit of an edge and Army came in a little bit too cocky, which happens sometimes, and Navy had the advantage on them.
As far as you, when did you start to figure out that you wanted a military future?
It was definitely later for me. I don't have a military family by any means. There's maritime history in my family for many years. My grandfather was the dean at Maine Maritime for a long time, as well as my father. And my father helped out there, as well as I've worked on fishing boats in the summer my whole life. So maritime was there, but the military wasn't. My first offer was Army. I got Army February of last year. And so I hadn't really thought about it until then. And then I started looking into the options and the opportunities that kind of situation provides. And I was really became obsessed with it. I realized that Army wasn't the place for me. It wasn't the location or the kind of career path I wanted, but Navy had a perfect fit.
When you got your letter, describe what that feeling was like.
You mean when I got my letter from Army?
Yeah, I mean from Navy, your admission letter.
I haven't received my admission letter yet. I have signed my national letter of intent for them, but they're rolling admissions, and so they've asked me to try and seek a congressional nomination, just like any other student who was applying, aside from athletics would. Have I not get that, I would still get one of the superintendent nominations. But I've signed my national letter of intent. But when I got the offer, it was spring of last year. I went to a spring ball visit, and it was really special because they had been messaging me for a while, communicating with me, and they really wanted to build a relationship before they moved forward with me and kind of understand the character of the person I am versus just offering a kid based off this film, which I really felt was an important part of the equation. And so when they offered me, they waited to do it in person when I came on campus, and it was the head coach who offered me, which was really special. It wasn't just a phone call or a blind phone call that I've never spoken to them before, which it made it feel a lot more important to me. And so they really valued me, which made me really value them and take them seriously in my consideration.
Now, do you know the Navy fight song yet?
I've not memorized it yet.
Oh, so you weren't singing after the game.
I was not. No.
You're waiting till next year.
Yeah.
He's waiting till he gets the nominations here.
Absolutely.
Now, when you played for Brian St. Pierre, who's played at the highest level, how much did that help you, would you say?
It helped me tremendously. I mean, he treats our practices and the way he coaches us. He says it often. We have a pro-style offense. We run pro-style practices. And so that includes the pressure he puts on us and the expectations he has for us as players as well as people, and how to hold our character and not crumble in those kind of situations. So he really prepared me for the future. And I also honestly can say that he prepared me not just for the future of football. He prepared me well as a man. I understand how to act in certain situations and take coaching and advice from somebody who's done it. And even if it's a little more aggressive than I would be too fond of, but it's at times it's what you need, and it's really useful.
So it's kind of like when Coach Pappas gets mad at me on the podcast. He gets a little violent with me.
You got to have a little bit of emotion as a coach. I mean, if you're a monochrome kind of guy, it's hard to really captivate everybody.
I mean, this year was tough for you. Well, I get one. Thanksgiving, there's no game after Thanksgiving. A lot of people have said, the Thanksgiving Day game, it's kind of lost its meaning. But I've always thought anytime you put on a uniform, the game is special. For you, this was your last high school game. Can you talk about your feelings that morning going into that game?
Absolutely. I just decided I was going to cut it loose. I couldn't live with the fact that we were just going to play it as if Zavarian was playing their second string guys. There was all this talk about how they weren't going to take it seriously because we didn't want to get their guys injured and stuff. And so as a team, we all decided, let's just cut it loose. Let's have fun, but let's play with a chip on our shoulder and understand that we haven't lost at home as a team in 3 years. And so that was something that we wanted to protect our home turf from. And we did so with a decent score, which we were really proud of. But for me, it was all about just having fun and understanding this is it, and playing in a way that I would be proud of myself looking back on my last game of football at high school level.
John,
Merrick, I'm a bit of a football historian, and I obviously enjoy college football. Not a lot of Massachusetts kids end up going and playing football. A lot of go to the academies. Not a lot end up going and playing football. And if you look at the roster this year, I think there are a couple on the roster right now for Massachusetts. So it makes it very special for you. Tell us what Coach Newbury's a heck of a guy, a hell of a coach. What was the big difference as you move forward? Was it Coach Newbury?
It was Coach Newbury and Coach Cronick, as well as Coach John Williams, the tight end coach. Coach Cronick is their offensive coordinator. They just have a vision that I really align myself with. Obviously, Navy's been known to be a very run-heavy offense, and I come from a receiver background. I'll be moving to tight end when I get there, most likely, just because of my frame. But coming from a receiving background, everyone was kind of questioning, why would you choose Navy? They don't throw the ball. But they've communicated to me their vision. They just don't have the personnel to do it as of now. So the vision is there, and it's really an exciting vision for me. And so hopefully we can kind of create a new style of Navy football with the future of this staff, because it is such a young staff, as in they've been there for such little time, but they've been very successful. So it's definitely got things going for them.
We talked about it, and you were in the waiting room. I mentioned it as well, Merrick, that the refreshing part of the Army-Navy game this year was, for me, it just wasn't all triple. Now, it's been a long time, about 10 years since one of my players got recruited by Navy, but I remember the naval assistant coach coming in and talking about it. And correct me if I'm wrong, if this has changed. But obviously, you're going to have to do the 5 years afterwards, correct?
Correct.
But if you're a football player, you're pretty much, as long as you do your work in the classroom, you're pretty much guaranteed your placement after graduation of where you want to go. Am I right on that?
I have not heard that it's a guarantee, but I have heard that there is a bit
a little secret between you and I think you're going to be okay. Have you thought about what you want to do within the Navy after your 4 or 5 year football in undergraduate?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the big draws for me was their naval architecture program. It's called Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering. In short, it's the design of ships, shipbuilding. And so it was a big call for me because I come from a big maritime history of building boats. I built the boat that I commercially fish off of in the summer with my father 3 years ago. And so I fell in love with the whole process of building boats and the design of them and learning the hydrodynamics of it and everything. And so it's something that I'm really interested in. And that was a major I wanted to pursue even without Navy, because it is at other colleges as well. But Navy fell into that perfect fit category, which I was really excited about. And they have some of the best facilities for that specific major as well.
You're not moving back to Castine, Maine, are you?
No, I'm not.
You know what they say about Castine? It's not the end of the world, but you can see it from there.
The funny thing is my grandparents live a little bit north, which is
Oh.
pretty much the end of the world.
They're way up there.
So-
One of the other things the naval recruiter told me, and I believe, so you guys start getting paid like your second year, correct?
Correct. It actually starts the first year. So the increase is every year, and the substantial increase is from your freshman year to your sophomore year. But the pay is no salary, but it's enough to be able to go out and spend money at the town and stuff, as well as pay for the certain things you need for school and everything else. So it's really a great setup for me financially, because, and the other thing I really like is every student there is on scholarship. No one pays to be there. So you're not treated as some superior football player because you happen to be on scholarship, and while other kids who don't play sports feel as though they're equally as deserving academically.
Well, you keep on beating Army, buddy. You're gonna be a little special on campus. The last thing I'm going to say is this: is that, again, this is the assistant coach telling me. He said at the age of 30, Naval Academy graduates have the highest earning. They have the highest earnings of any graduate in the country, because again, they have no debt. They've been getting paid all the way through, and then you get paid. And I believe there's all sorts of little tax-free things and so on and so forth. Bottom line, son, is you are a superstar, and you're heading on it. You are on the track of being a superstar afterwards. With it, a really great situation for you.
Absolutely, yeah. I always am the kind of believer that there's a life after football, and so understanding that in my recruiting process was a big part of my decision, and understanding that building a career path as well as a football career path was an important part.
Danny, you got a last question before we let Merrick
My
go?
only thing is, if this podcast and the Herald doesn't work, can I hit you up for a loan if I ever need it down the road?
I suppose, but it's going to have to be a little while.
There you go. Hey, congratulations. Very happy for you. You had a terrific career, and good luck at the Navy.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Merrick,
Thanks for coming on.
go Navy, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations, man. It's awesome.
Have a good one,
now.
Congratulations,
Bye.
Merrick.
How about that kid, huh?
Yeah.
What a great kid.
Far too smart for me.
Oh, my God. You think he's got
I
it
don't know if
going?
I could build a tugboat, one of those little tugboats, and this guy's building. Good for him.
I know, please. Yeah, the country's in good shape with him. My God, what a great kid, great player. And I'll tell you what, Damien, I was going to ask him, I forgot. Damien, you know who Joe Bellino is?
Sounds
You have
last
no
name
idea.
sounds so
You have
familiar.
no idea.
He's a head football coach at St. Columbkills.
Yeah, was he?
He did a year.
Joe Bellino, I wanted to ask Merrick, and I forgot. Joe Bellino won the Heisman Trophy when he was at Navy. He's from Winchester. Hey, this is Mac. Mac's
Hey.
doing a little dog set. Get out of here, Mac. Oh, yeah, Joe Bellino. Oh, yeah, the best. All right, get out of here, you. All right. Anyways, all right, now we are moving on. Now, this guy here, let me give you a little. This guy here is from Watertown, Massachusetts. Okay. He's going to tell us his story. It is a riveting story. He's a Hall of Fame football player from Westfield State College. Was a great player at Watertown. Got into law enforcement. Got into the ATF. Managed to get all the way up to the assistant director of the ATF, as high as right there below the director. Unbelievable climb in his career. And we're going to sit here and we're going to shoot the breeze. Let's bring in Carlos Canino. All right, good. All right, we got him here. The great Carlos Canino has showed up. Fantastic. I got one question for you before we start.
Yeah.
Are you packing right now?
No.
Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Danny, this guy comes down to visit me in Fort Lauderdale a few years ago, right? And we go to a restaurant. We start walking away. He goes, wait a sec. I go back there. I go, what's the matter? He goes, I got to get my gun. I mean, we're going to a restaurant.
Now, the question I have is, during the meal, were you ever tempted to pull the trigger on Pap?
No, I could never hurt John.
All right.
See, he calls me John. Utmost respect there, buddy. Utmost respect. Carlos, it's great having you on with us. We're going to shoot the breeze about sports, Carlos.
Sure.
In between, we're going to talk about you and all that stuff. We're going to go for about a half hour, 40 minutes. Yeah, fire away. We want to hear it all and stuff like that. But let's just do real quick, Carlos, your background. I told these guys about you growing up in Watertown, the only Puerto Rican in Watertown back in the day. And he ends up being one of my guys. And goes out, great foot player at Watertown High School, great player at Westfield State. And then, Carlos, take us from there into the law enforcement stuff.
Yeah, so we moved. Me, my mom, my two brothers moved to Watertown from Puerto Rico back in the early 70s. So we grew up in Watertown. Me, an older brother and a younger brother. And so we grew up in Watertown. I went to Watertown High. I then went to Bridgeton Academy. I prepped for a year. I went to Central Connecticut for a year. Played there for a year, and I played for my position coach at Westfield. At Bridgeton. At Central was our friend Rick Marcello, longtime Bridgeton Academy coach and one of John's coaches at the camp. And then I transferred to Westfield, where I graduated with a degree in criminal justice. I played football also at Westfield. And then my first, I don't know if it was a real job. My first job out of college was coaching. I coached at Westfield for a year. And then the following year, I coached at Wennick. And so, I thought I wanted to be a football coach, but I was a criminal justice major too. So I was applying to different police places and agencies and stuff like that. And it was kind of taking a long time. I don't know, John, if you remember, I remember reaching out to you about trying to go somewhere as a grad assistant and getting in the pipeline and going that route. And as that was going on, I was hired by ATF down in Miami. I was living in Delray Beach, Florida at the time. And so that's where I got hired. I got hired there, and my first duty assignment was Yakima, Washington. That was in July of 1990. So I was 34, 35 years ago. But when I was at Central as a young 19, 20-year-old kid, reality hit me in the head. And it was like, hey, 5'8", 5'9", 170-pound corner. Or then at Central, I was a wide receiver, actually. This is the end of the line for you. And so Central I decided I wanted to be in law enforcement, federal law enforcement, but Central didn't have that major. So Westfield did. My friend John Giglio, our friend John Giglio, was a childhood hero of mine, was playing at Westfield. And John was a few years older. I never really played with him. So that's one of the things I wanted to do. That's how I ended up at Westfield.
It's great. Buddy, so you go out to Yakima, and you make your chops going undercover, correct?
Yeah, so it was weird, right? When I got hired, number one, I got hired out of Fort Lauderdale, right? I was interviewed in Miami, but they actually offered me the job when they said, hey, come to the Fort Lauderdale office. Anyway, I was offered the job there, and they said, hey, will you go anywhere in the country for this job? And I said, yeah, I'll go anywhere. And so they said, okay, you're going to Yakima, Washington. And we had to look it up in Rand McNally. And so Yakima, Washington is in between Seattle and Spokane. It's like an inverted triangle, right? So the end of the triangle would be pointing down. That'd be Yakima. And it's a rural migrant agricultural area in the southern part of Washington. They grow hops, right? All the beer companies have their hops fields there. And so at the time, it was the heroin distribution center for the Northwest. So there's a lot of bad guys there, a lot of traffickers. So that's where I went. And it was a two-man office. It was me and a guy named Bob Wyatt, old school guy. He got transferred there from Houston. And Bob was a hard guy. And he did hard coaching, which I was used to. And I thrived under hard coaching, right? Because that's how I grew up. So he and I hit it off. And my first day on the job, I reported to duty there. I graduated the academy in December 20 of 1990. And I reported to duty in Yakima like the first week in January. And my first undercover deal was the middle of January. So I was out of the academy less than a month. And I bought a sawed-off shotgun from a guy. It was me and Bob. That was the cover team. I didn't have a wire. It was a brand new office. We had no equipment. Bob was across the street at the car wash watching me buy a sawed-off shotgun from this guy. And when I was trying to buy it, two other dudes showed up and there was a bidding war in the middle of the street for a sawed-off shotgun. And I was able to buy it and I was on my way.
Carlos, so you did a bunch of undercover stuff. Which one was it? What was the Hells Angels? Where was that?
So this is what, fast forward 15 years. And we got to go back. I was in a program, and I got to be careful here. I was in a special program where you were trained to do long-term infiltration cases on organizations or very violent individuals. And that you're an asset, you're an agency asset, right? So any office in the country can call you if you meet the criteria, what they're looking for, and then you get on a plane and you go. They could drop you in and you have all the background documents where you can show up as your undercover persona and be able to, rent an apartment or rent a house, right? You're there under an assumed identity and you have all the background. Anybody starts trying to figure out who you are, they're never going to do it. So anyway, as a result of being in that program, I was called to be part of a team to try to infiltrate the Hells Angels in Arizona. One of the guys that I did that with was a guy named Jay Dobbins, who was all Pac-10 wide receiver at the University of Arizona in the early to mid 80s. He's on the University of Arizona all-century team. And he lives not too far from me here in Tucson, actually. Right, we still see each other a couple of times a week. But yeah, so that was it. We attempted to infiltrate the Hells Angels. I was there only about 3 months into it before the bosses didn't like each other. They got in a fight, and my boss basically said, "It's my football. I'm going home." So I was recalled back to Miami. That case was able to proceed further, and they arrested, I forget, 50 Hells Angels 3 years later. But nobody expected us to want to infiltrate, which we did. Basically, by the time I left, we were buying guns and drugs from patch members of the Hells Angels. Nobody thought we were going to be able to do that so quickly, and we did.
So you were doing that. You did the gangs out in LA as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I spent about a little over, just under a year or so in Yakima, Washington. I got transferred to LA, and I worked street gangs. I was there for the LA riots, which was pretty exciting as a young guy. And then I was in a task force with an LAPD gang unit back then it was known as CRASH, Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums, CRASH. They no longer call that. That movie Colors, I don't know if you guys remember that with, what's his name? I forget the dude's name. Anyway, there was that movie Colors. Right? I was in one of those units. I was assigned. Me and a couple of other ATF agents were assigned to that unit, and I did that. I did that for a while. I did that for about 3 years, and I was assigned over to an LAPD narcotics unit. So I was in LA from 91 to the beginning of 97. So I spent my time working street gangs and narcotics, assigned to LAPD full time as an ATF agent. And then I got transferred to Miami, where I worked in a specialized robbery unit with Miami-Dade, or back then it was Metro-Dade PD. Now it's Miami-Dade PD, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And what we did was we try to infiltrate into home invasion crews, professional robbery crews, and we would try to take them off before, right, they were busting into people's houses and stuff like that. So I did that for a while as well. And then I transferred down to Puerto Rico, worked there for a while. So that was basically my first 15 years on the job. And then I put in for supervision, and I became a group supervisor in St. Louis, where I had the Violent Crimes Task Force with St. Louis PD. I did that for 4 years. I went to Mexico as a country attaché in Mexico. I worked at the embassy. Then I got promoted again. I was assistant special agent in charge of the Phoenix Field Division. Then I got promoted. I became the special agent in charge of the LA Field Division, which is half the state of California. I got lateraled over to Miami as a special agent in charge. That's where you and I reconnected. And then I was promoted to deputy assistant director of ATF field operations. So, and that was that. And then I retired in 2020.
So let's go back a little bit. How many shootouts you were in, buddy?
I was in 4 where I had to fire my weapon, and I was at another 2 where the guys I was with fired, but I did not. So I guess a total of 6.
So you're undefeated.
Yeah, I'm here, right? I mean, man, look, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, right? To be here and, right, I was able to retire, right? I'm healthy as far as I know, right? I'm not a boozer. I don't have any substance abuse problems. I'm playing with the house's money, man, right? I should have been killed a lot of times, but, you know, a lot of that is luck, 1, 2, training, but a lot of it is how I grew up, where I grew up, you know, the sports I played, all that stuff. I am convinced that all that stuff, my upbringing, right, being a protege of the Pappas family, you know, with all his brothers and their dad, right? Nick Pappas, Mr. Pappas was a teacher at my high school, as a mentor to a lot of us young kids, a great role model. All that was, to me, that was the main ingredient into me being able to be successful, 1, and 2, when it was time to fight for real, to fight for my life, I had the grit, because the way I was raised and the role models I had, like you and your brothers and others, that I was able to overcome all that and be successful.
Danny, what do you got?
I'm just mesmerized. I mean, the one thing you always hear, you watch a lot of these, you know, these TV series on Netflix like Narcos and all that, and you talk about, you know, when you're in these areas, you know, a lot of these guys who you know, you think they're your friend. One day it could be your friend. The next day, if they're turning against you, that's your life. I mean, how do you you know, you've got to really sell yourself.
Yeah, that's right. It's a great question. You try to, right, you're pretending, well, first of all, right, you're pretending to be a bad guy. That's number 1, right? And the people that we work some violent dudes. And none of us would have got these jobs if we'd been hanging around dudes that we were trying to investigate, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
right?
no, I hear you. Yeah.
And so in some of these, a lot of these dudes were legit bad guys. And so and me and one of my friends were talking about this the other day. I think that is because we weren't pretending we were somebody else. We would always be able to find a connection with the person that we were working undercover on.
Yeah.
And that got you through. Does that make sense? I remember being in a hotel room in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Tell this story.
And I'm looking around, and there were 5 guys in there and me. 4 of those guys were convicted murderers, and the 5th one had just done 10 years in a federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana for bank robbery. And it was me, and I was getting over on him. And it was really tense. It was like, man, I don't know how this is not going good right now, right? And we were watching TV in the hotel room, and what we were doing, we were planning a robbery is what we were doing. And so it wasn't going well, and we were watching TV, and I don't know, Danny, if you remember, this was in 2000 and end of 2000 and no, yeah, it was end of 2004. If you remember I think it was the Pacers, and was it the Knicks?
Oh, was that the OJ car chase?
No. When they got in a big brawl and took it into the stands.
Oh, that was the Pacers in Detroit.
Okay, that was the Pacers. All right, so that was the Pacers in Detroit, and there was that huge fight, right?
Right, Malice in the Palace, they called it.
Right. So we were watching that in the hotel room, and we kind of started talking about it and kidding about it and making fun of it and stuff like that. And kind of that broke the ice, and it kind of, right? I don't know, weird stuff. We kind of came together as a group, right? Like Ditka says, we came together today. Remember that?
Yeah, sure.
We became a team today. Remember that? Remember when Ditka said that? So that kind of, we had now a common bond, right? Because we saw that brawl on TV, and I met those guys a couple of times after that, and right, we were able to come up with a plan to, right, they were going to rob a supposed drug stash house for me. Anyway, the day they showed up, armed to the teeth, we took them off. But right, the thing that got us over on that was that brawl. And we were able to make a connection. So yeah, I mean, right, the short answer, or the long story to your short question is, you kind of had to be yourself and use your personality to make a connection with your targets, or it wasn't going to go well for you. And yeah, I mean, I could tell you many times sitting in working those professional robbery crews, looking into these, you develop a sixth sense after a while. And I remember just looking into these guys' eyes, and you could tell once they, if you gave them an opening, they were going to take it and they were going to try to hurt you, right? Yeah. And you could see them scheming right through their eyes. You could just feel them and just feel that energy, thinking, I'm going to pull the rug out from under you right when you least expect it. But yeah, you could, sometimes you could see it coming. Hopefully you can see it coming. But I was fortunate enough to see it coming enough where I was able to get out of Dodge before getting really hurt.
Carlos, before we get to Fast and Furious, can you tell us a story about the shootout in L.A.?
The car chase?
Yeah.
So, and I hate telling these stories, but anyway.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, so again, I was young. I was, 26 years old, an immature 26-year-old, by the way. And we were covering a friend of mine, Ken Croak, who, by the way, played football at what's it called now? UMass Dartmouth. Back then it was SMU, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Kenny he's from Zavarian, went to Zavarian High School, actually. So we're covering Ken. It's like 2 a.m. in LA, February of 92, early 92. We were covering Kenny. It was like 2, 3 a.m. The deal wasn't going. We were going to shut it down. As we were shutting the deal down, my partner at the time was an LAPD officer. Anyway, this car kept making the block and looking at us. When they drove by, would slow down and look at us. And so we were about to leave, and as we were leaving, the car comes down the block again, and we pass each other real slow, looking at each other. And my partner at the time, Margie, says, "Hey, you better get out of here. These guys are going to try something on us." So as I start driving away, they pull a U-turn real quick, and Margie goes, "Go," right? So I punch it, start drive away, and all of a sudden I hear some popping going around. And I looked at Margie as I'm driving away, and I go, "Hey, Margie, are they shooting at us?" And I remember Margie looking over with look on her face like, "Yeah, you stupid ass." Right? "Yeah, they're shooting at us." So I'm like, "Holy shit." So, right, I press on it. I look over, and Margie at the time, she saved our life. Margie turned around in the seat, leaned out the window, and started cranking rounds back at these guys. And I'm thinking, okay, that should back them off. That didn't back them off. They came and rammed us from behind. And I said, okay, right, this is now got real, right? This is real thing. Not pretend. Up to that point, I was pretending I was a federal agent. This was, you're going to fight for your life now. And I remember trying to duck down real low in the seat. And the first thing, crazy stuff comes through your mind. And I remember thinking, I wonder if the headrest is going to be able to stop the round coming through, hitting me in the back of the head. And then the next thing I thought about was, I wonder what it's going to feel like to get shot in the back of the head. Is that going to be fatal? Is that going to kill me? Right? And I had this fear. I mean, I was talking about fear, right? I had this overwhelming fear. Anyway, I'm driving 100 miles an hour, trying to get away. These guys were on us. Still were on us. Anyway, finally, fear was overcome by rage. And I've never felt rage since then like this. And I said, you know what? I'm sick of being afraid. If these guys want to get it on, let's go, right? I don't care, right? I'm ready. I've made peace with it. I'm ready. There's going to be a lot of bodies on the street. One of them might be me, but I'm done. You want to fight? We're going to fight for real. And so anyways, I was just trying to, get a better vantage point or, better angle of attack. I try to make a right hard turn. Didn't make it. They came and blocked us in, and we had a gunfight with 3 guys within a car's length from each other right there. What's interesting is, I don't know if you guys watch Seinfeld, and when they go to his apartment, the fire escape right there, it was literally right in front of that building.
No shit.
Yep.
And you won.
Yeah, we won. Yeah, but again, right? Like I told you, all the first 20 years of my life, to that point, right? From whatever, 7, 8 years old, Watertown, to that day, February day in LA, all that preparation got me ready to be able to do that, right? And be able to stay in the fight and win. And right, I've told you this. I've thanked you and your brothers and everybody, and I've thanked all my coaches and everybody on a part in that. I've thanked, because I'm alive today because of all that. There's no
we got about 10 minutes left. But I want to go over the Fast and Furious thing because that's what you really, I mean, obviously great decorated career. I remember, back, I don't know, how many years ago was it, Carlos?
That was in the summer of 2011. So yeah, long time.
Yeah. So when did you testify in front of Congress?
July of 2011.
Okay, so I'm literally hanging around, and I get a phone call from Warren Tolman in Watertown. He says, "Hey," he goes, "you got to turn on CNN. Carlos Canino is testifying." I go, "Get the fuck out of here! Boy, what's Carlos doing?" He goes, "You got to see this thing." And we flip it on, and you're all buttoned up, buddy. Like I said, we don't have a ton of time, but can you tell us a little bit about Fast and Furious because it was literally an international story?
Yeah, so I was the ATF attaché in Mexico, I was the head of the office, and so I was at the embassy, right? We have all offices around Mexico. Anyway, our job is to liaise with the Mexican government, to liaise with the United States State Department, and be ATF's eyes and ears in Mexico, right? We assist the agents on the north side of the border with their cases. So there was a case out of Phoenix, out of the Phoenix Field Division, on gun traffickers, and what they didn't do was they did not interdict every single gun that they knew was headed for the southern border, which goes against all of ATF's rules and regulations and common sense. And so what was happening was we were starting to recover a lot of these guns and tracing them back to one specific case at the Phoenix Field Division. We were kept in the dark as to what they were doing. And right, we were lied to by our own people. We were lied to the tune of, these guys were responsible for the tune of 2,000 guns coming down across the border. And right, we were finding guns at Mexican crime scenes. I remember tracing a 50 caliber sniper rifle that was used to shoot down a Mexican federal police helicopter. Anyway, so when this story broke that ATF in Phoenix knowingly let guns be trafficked into Mexico to the tune of 2,000 guns, the shit hit the fan. And there was a huge investigation, huge congressional investigation, which I was subpoenaed. Well, we were investigated, right? The Department of Justice investigated us, the Office of Inspector General. And throughout, right during that investigation, they found out that, hey, the ATF guys in Mexico were kept in the dark, right? They asked all the right questions when they saw all the red flags. So as a result of that, I had to testify before a House committee. Because of that, because it was on national television, not only in the U.S., but in Mexico, I had to leave Mexico because it wasn't safe for me to be there anymore. So that's when I laterally transferred over to the Phoenix Field Division. But when I told John the story, when the story broke, and all the accusations were coming out against our agents in Phoenix, I was like, there's no way it happened like that, because that's not how we're built. They can't do that, right? It's against, number one, it's stupid to do what they tried to do. It goes against all the ATF policies. So there's no way that they did what they did, right? And so the Mexican Attorney General, who I had a very close working relationship with and personal relationship, she called me into her office and she goes, hey, what's going on? Is this true? And I said, well, the way it's coming out in the media, there's no way it can be true. And she goes, why? And I explained to her, right? Went down the line. And because she trusted me, she then went to the president of Mexico and she said, "Hey, I talked to my guy that it's not, it's not happening the way it happened. The media saying it happened. Guess what? It happened exactly the way the media portrayed it. And so now, right now, now I had to go back. When I found out it right behind the scenes, when it really, it happened the way people were saying it happened, I had to go back to her and say, hey, I gave you the wrong information, right? Now she had to go back and tell the president of Mexico, hey, my guy was wrong. It happened the way they say it happened.
Jesus.
Right? Talk about eating crow and letting somebody down, right? It was not happy times at the Canino house.
Yeah.
So
you got back safe and sound, my man. Danny, what do you got? What else you got for him, bud?
I just like listening here. I'm fascinated.
I was thinking about this, right? I want to, number one, this is my, I don't know what it says about me, but it's my favorite show. And it's an important show because, right, nobody, look, if the message I have is for young kids and parents, high school sports, it doesn't matter, band, chess, football, tennis, hockey, that is one of the most important things of a kid growing up, right? Because it teaches you about life. It gives you life's lessons. It builds grit, right? Teaches you how to be a team player. It's we before me. All that stuff, right? Danny, if I was thinking about this the other day, if I showed up as a college football coach in New England and I knew nothing, I would call Danny and I would take him to a steak dinner and say, give me the history of high school football in Massachusetts and tell me where I got to go recruit. Right?
I do my best to help you.
No, but seriously, that's why I love the show. And it's fantastic. And right, obviously I graduated high school in 1983, and you guys were talking about this the other day. What happened to my beloved Middlesex League? It's gone.
Gone.
When I graduated high school in 1983, I think there were 18 and 19 kids that were either 1A or 1AA kids from the Middlesex League. And by the way, right, we still had guys like Jeff Simpson, who was from Watertown, went to BC on a full scholarship, right? So, you imagine if we had Jeff Simpson with us, but there was probably in the low 20s kids either from private schools or the Middlesex League itself that went 1AA or to a 1A school back then.
Yeah, everybody had, even the bad teams had Division I players in those days.
Middlesex League in the 70s had 6 guys playing in the NFL. The Middlesex League, 6 guys playing in the NFL. Crazy. Yeah.
And so, you were saying it's a geography thing, right? All the private schools, the Catholic schools are all in Middlesex County, basically, right? So they just get the kids, they go over there rather than stay in the public schools.
Yeah. Like we've talked about, Carlos, times have changed. You would have, they wouldn't have taken you though. They wouldn't. There was no way you could have get in. No way.
Check this out, John. Right? I played for Rick at Central. Right? I played for Jerry Azzanaro at Westfield my sophomore year. Yeah. Right? Jerry taught me how to catch punts. Believe it or not. Right? Jerry goes on to become the assistant head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Right?
Right.
One of your teammates, Tony DeRico, was my offensive coordinator at Central, right? One of your former teammates' brother, Jack Quinn, his brother played with me at Westfield. Who else, right? Your brother Mark was my defensive backs coach at Watertown High.
You're part of my family, for Christ's sake.
Yes. You're the extra Pappas.
Well, it gets who else? John's brother-in-law Billy was my 9th grade football coach.
Yeah, please. It goes in Nick and the rest of them.
Right?
Family tree here.
Brother Nick used to ref our games.
Oh, please, Carlos, we're getting overtime right here, buddy. Listen, we loved having you on.
This is
It was
awesome.
great.
Awesome.
It was really, really great stuff, buddy. We will. Hopefully, you're coming back to Watertown soon.
Yeah, hopefully. But they got a thing back there called winter. That's why I left.
Yeah,
So
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
you guys are all welcome here to come to Tucson. Weather's great. It's in the low 70s right now. So
Nice.
Don't invite us. We show up, buddy.
That's
yeah.
it.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
No. Correction. Thank you for
We love
joining
you,
us.
We love it, buddy. And Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Okay.
All right. Take care. Bye now.
Hey, Carlos.
Yeah, thank you.
How about that?
Jesus.
How about that?
Oh, I'll
I'm
tell you what,
speechless,
one of
can't
the
even talk.
greats.
Good
Oh,
stuff.
I'll
Good
tell
stuff.
you what. He's so humble. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, what did he say? 6 shootouts? Undefeated in 6 shootouts. I mean,
That's 6 that he told us about.
oh, Danny, crazy things. That he told me in depth. That scene in the hotel in Indiana with all the
Yeah.
murderers, he thought it was going bad. All of a sudden, this fight breaks out on TV.
Yeah.
They stop wondering if he's a cop, and they all start cheering against the fight. It was crazy.
Like that's something out of some movie script right there.
Yeah.
I mean, oh
The
my
movie
god.
script right there. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, do you have any shout outs? We didn't even talk about doing shout outs today.
I mean, after that, I'm still mesmerized. But
I love it. I
I
love
want
it.
to shout out Carlos for coming on.
Yeah, Carlos was
I mean,
great. He was
spectacular.
unbelievable.
Spectacular. Hope we can get him again.
I love that.
We'll get him again. We'll get him down here. You know what? There we'll do a live one because he
Yeah,
loves smoking
absolutely.
cigars. Well, yeah, we'll get him going. Hey, we're gonna take next week off because this thing called Christmas.
Yeah.
All right. My shout out is to our team of the Rant. I'll tell you what. What are we doing? What, like 13 weeks of this thing, Damien?
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten fired yet.
We haven't even got fired yet. It's
Not yet.
unbelievable. And how about them saying it's his favorite show out in Tucson, Arizona?
Amazing.
I'm thankful for you guys. Thank you for everything, guys. You guys are the absolute best. All right. Dave, Merry Christmas to you. Danny,
Merry Christmas.
I'm coming back to Boston. Maybe we do Carmelina's after Christmas. All right, buddy?
Absolutely. Love it.
All right, guys. And to all the folks.
All right. Take care, everyone. Merry
Yeah,
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Okay. Take care.